So again, welcome to this advanced training assessment options for student success. Thank you all for joining. We're just going to go ahead and get started on this training. A little bit of housekeeping. I know that some of you have attended our training in the past or also previously at throughout the day. That this should be fairly straightforward. That if you have any questions, just put it in the chat. We will have plenty of time during the session to have Q&A where I can answer your questions during our activity, and also at the end of the training where if you want to talk specifically about your questions, I can address that there. But if you have specific questions about something in Canvas that I'm not addressing today in this training, I recommend that you go to our virtual office hours. For example, if you want to talk about your gradebook and you want to show us your student data, student submission or something, I recommend that you do that in our virtual office hours, which is going to be on Tuesday and Thursday of next week. But I'm going to send you all this resources link right at the end of this training. So you don't need to write the note right now if you don't want to. So if you would like to follow along, I recommend that you follow along by going to lms.tamu.edu and click on the top right-hand corner and click the login button where you can log in with your net ID and password, where you can log into Canvas. Again, if you can't access Canvas, that means that you probably need to send an email to aihelp@tamu.edu, and because the only people who have access to Canvas right now who are people who already taught courses in Canvas previously, who are teaching in Canvas for this summer 2021 and also for fall 2021. So if you're not teaching in Canvas until spring 2021, you're probably not going to have access to Canvas right now. But just to make sure, if you can't log in, just email our service desk support at aihelp@tamu.edu. So while you're logging in, I'm going to talk briefly about our website. I'm sure that you heard about our website from my other colleagues on our other session. But since we would like to make this training standard, I have to do the same thing again. So bear with me. So this is our lms.tamu.edu website, where you can learn more about how to make the move to Canvas, how to use Zoom. I'm sure that all of you who are in here already knows how to use Zoom. And the most important thing is the train up section, where you can sign up for our weekly training and also for our migration appointments if you would like some assistance and migrating eCampus to Canvas courses or from Canvas to Canvas courses. Lastly, before I move on to the next training, I want to show you the Make the Move section. This is something that we recently built and recently put together. It's basically if you want to try and importing your eCampus to Canvas courses by yourself, we have provided some guidance. So basically, if you click again, Make the Move and import from eCampus to Canvas, we do have a step-by-step process that you can follow on how to export your eCampus content to Canvas. Though we personally recommend that you build some of the content from scratch, just because some of the content, if you're teaching in eCampus for a very long time, some of those content won't transfer well into Canvas just because it's a different LMS. So if you want to learn more about how to build things from scratch, we also have a guide on how to build from scratch. If this is not your first time teaching in Canvas, you would like to need some guidance on how to transfer your content from Canvas, for example, fall 2020 to fall 2021, we also have an import and export Canvas course guide that you can follow. Lastly, the training and support section is where you can sign up for, you can look at our office hours and also sign up for migration consultation. If you click this button, you can sign up for our migration consultation, 45-minute migration consultation with one of our experts. But yeah, that's what I want to show you on our website. Oh, last thing, if you are trying to combine your course, just click this Orca. That's where you can combine your courses in Canvas. If you go to course management, you can also click Orca right here. Again, it's from course management and Orca. There you can find a guide that can help you how to combine your courses in Canvas and how to rename. Don't forget if you want to rename your course in Canvas. Again, that website is from course management, and you can go here to find the guide, or if you already know how to use it, this Orca button right below it will go directly to Orca. The only person who can do this is basically the instructor of record. So if you're a TA, you need to ask the instructor of records to combine the courses for you. So let me go back to my Canvas, to my PowerPoint. So a bit of overview, this training will cover how to create rubrics, how to use rubrics in Canvas, how to create question groups, and lastly, how to moderate quizzes. So that's three things that we're going to talk about in this training. So hopefully you have attended our previous training, our basic how to create assessment or how to create a quiz. Basically, that's because this is going to be one step or a few steps above that. So as I mentioned previously in the title, this is going to be more advanced training. So I'm going to pretend that you already know how to create your assessments in Canvas. So training outcomes. So if you're going to be able to create rubrics to help assess assignments, discussions, and quizzes. We're going to talk about how to use rubrics for your assignments and discussion, just because not a lot of people actually that I've seen use rubrics for quizzes. Create question groups to ensure that quiz questions get shuffled, randomized question basically, and also lastly, identify how to provide accommodations on quizzes for students that require extra attempts or students with accommodations with a different due date maybe, or extra time, just extra time. We're certainly going to talk about this in this training. Again, if you have any questions, just put it in the chat. We will have a few activity sessions at the in the middle where I can answer your questions, and also we're going to have a Q&A at the end. So before I move to my Canvas course, let me explain a little bit about rubrics. So rubrics, I'm sure that all of you are familiar with rubrics, that it can actually make your grading a lot more efficient if you have rubrics. And also your students also going to know what are you going to grade their assignments based on, right? Because you're going to show them that the criteria, maybe that you're going to grade them based on their if they don't make any typos. For example, I've seen a lot of rubrics being used in English courses where you need to make sure that they don't have any grammatical error. For example, you can use rubrics for that, or something others for math courses too, like, oh, they need to use the right formula or something. So you can use rubric for that too. So from now on, I'm going to move between my PowerPoint and my Canvas course. So if I'm going too fast, just let me know in the chat and I can rewind and talk slower and review certain things if needed. So let me go to my Canvas course. So after you log in, just click any of your practice course. I'm going to use this practice course for this training. So there are two ways that you can create a rubric. The first way is to go to the rubrics feature where you can create a rubric. You can just click add rubric, right? I already have a rubric created in here, which is language and grammar. And I've seen that I've seen that some faculty likes to create the rubrics beforehand. This is where Canvas is going to store all of your rubric. The reason being is that some of the faculty don't like to show the rubrics, what they're going to base their grading on to the students when they publish the course, the assignments. So after the students submit the assignment, that's when they release the rubric. So this is so I recommend if you're that type of faculty who just like to build their rubrics beforehand and not release it to specific assignment, you can build the rubric beforehand right in Rubrics. Now, the second option is where I'm going to show you what happened if you want to release the rubric, want to attach the rubric to a particular assignment or discussion board. So you can go, I'm going to go to my assignment. Of course, if you don't care whether you want to release the rubric when you publish the course, you can definitely build the rubric directly in your assignment. You don't have to build it in Rubrics. So I'm going to go to individual assignments for my week 1. Just pretend that this is the assignment that I'm going to put the rubric on. After you build the assignment, of course, you're going to see a rubric on the bottom of here and here. All you need to do is that click this plus rubric. You can create the rubric from scratch and publish it as soon as you publish the assignment. Or if you have created the rubric beforehand, you can click find a rubric, and I can find all my rubrics in here. And you can just attach it later. For example, you can just attach, I'm going to use this rubric and click use this rubric. There we go. And keep in mind that the points in your total assignments need to match. So I'm going to change that to 10 points just for I like consistency. Let me change that to 10 points so that the students all get confused and you don't get confused. I'm going to click save. Now the points are matching now, so it's good. So, and again, when you build your rubric or you find a rubric, there are certain options that you need to enable. You don't see this option, this 4 or 5 options until you put the rubric in a particular assignment. So when you build your rubric and under rubrics, you won't be able to see this. So just make sure that if you're planning to use grades to grade the students using this rubric, make sure that you use this rubric for assignment grading. That way will connect to the gradebook, to the speed grader. And you're not the students, you don't have to input the grades twice, basically. And in here, if you write the rubric from scratch, I'll write the free form comments. You can ask them to write the free form and without any ratings, basically, if you want. You can remove the points from the rubric if you don't want your students to know. And also, lastly, if you remove the points, you're going to lose some option, which is you can't use it for assignment grading. And lastly, don't post outcomes result on Learning Mastery Gradebook. That will be a different training. So, but for the most common one, let's just enable this. Use this rubric for assignment grading. And if you can also create more criteria if you want, just by clicking this first criterion. You can also build this from the rubric section. And if you're just changing the criteria and you're keeping the ratings as 10740, you can duplicate it by just clicking duplicate. And just change the criteria from grammar or something like that, and update criterion, and change the long description if you want to. There we go. Now it's just gonna, so it's just more gonna make it more efficient for you to create your rubric, because you don't have to create the ratings all over again, right? And again, this becomes 20 points instead of 10 points now. If you don't want to use it, make sure that you delete it. And lastly, just don't forget to update rubrics. Now from here, if you go to speed grader, you will be able to see the rubric. Of course, I've graded this. And what you need to do is, I'm going to make this a little bit bigger by clicking. Anytime you see this, I can make the rubric bigger. And what you need to do is very simple. Once you're grading, you can just click 7. It's going to go 7, 4, 0, 10. Or you can type in actual your own number that's not available in the ratings, maybe 8, and put the comment why the students receive an 8. Make sure that this save is a bit confusing, that save actually submit. It's actually mean submit. You don't need to click this submit because this submit belongs to this assignment comments. So, but this save means you're actually submitting. So after you click save, it means that the students potentially will start receiving the grades, depending on how you set up the assignments or the quizzes or the discussion board, whether you make it manual or hide the assignments, right? So, but it's not something, it's something that we recommend that you do this, you fill out the grading for particular students in one go. It's not something that you can just click save and then return to this grade to this student again 2 hours later. So just making sure that you're aware that this save means you're submitting it. I'm going to close this. And that is all about rubric. So just making sure that I'm covering everything, how you can create rubric. You will get a copy of this presentation in the PDF at the end of this training. So if you need the PDF, feel free to stick around at the end where I can send you all this PDF. We cover how to add the rubric to assignment and how to attach the rubric that you have created to an assignment. Adding rubric to discussion. This is something I want to show you next, because in a discussion in assignment, you can see that the rubric is available on the bottom, right? Somewhere right here. I'm going to click this and click cancel for now. The rubric will be available in right here for an assignment. For discussion board, it's a bit different. Let me go to my discussion board. For example, this 1 week, you don't see a rubric on the bottom. What you need to do is click this snowman button, the triple dotted vertical button right here on the right hand corner. Click that, and then you will be able to add the rubric. Again, you can create the rubric from scratch, or you can find the rubric from an existing rubric that you have created in the past before, and just click use rubric after you find the course. Again, I have a lot of courses on my account right now. That's why you see a lot of this. And sometimes it's becoming hard to search for it. But yes, after you do that, don't forget to use this rubric for assignment grading and then create rubric. I'm not going to do that for this discussion board just because I need to use this training again in the future. But that's how you create the rubric for attach a rubric in the discussion board. Go to my PowerPoint again. We did discuss adding rubric to the discussion. Oops, I'm clicking too fast. Yes, so we do have an activity. So just let me know if you're trying this or you're just watching today. Just let me know in the chat. I'm going to run this timer. If you're just watching, just let me know in the chat. Or if you have any questions, just let me know in the chat also. If you're just watching, we can move a lot faster. So we don't have to wait for 5 minutes. But if you're not letting me know, I'm just gonna let this timer runs out basically. I see that two people, oh, sorry, three maybe. Three are just watching. To be able for me to move ahead, I need the majority of you saying just watching or you're done. So that we can move ahead. If you have any questions too, just let me know in the chat. Four people, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now we're at 50%. Oh, 60%. Yeah, we're at the majority. Okay, it seems that everyone is done or just watching. So let me stop the counter. Go. And move to the next section, which is question groups. So we noticed that some of the faculty or teaching their courses in eCampus or Canvas would like to be able to randomize the questions, particularly in an exam, a quiz or test, whatever you want to call it. And eCampus, it is simple to randomize a question because you can see the button randomize questions. In Canvas, it's a different story that there is no button that you can click to randomize the question. There is only a button for you to randomize the answers. So you might be wondering, how can you randomize the question, right? So there are two options. One of the most common one is to create the question banks. And that's the first option. The second option is to create a question groups. So there are pros and cons about using either one of them. I guess I personally and the rest of the team and my team and the Office for Academic Innovation recommend that instead of using a question bank, you use question groups, just because we are all human, that sometimes we make mistakes too when creating our questions, right? And you want to be able to regrade those questions later on after your students submitted the exam, submitted the quiz, and you realize, hey, I made a mistake on question number 8. I need to be able to regrade this question and give everyone partial credits or give everyone full points. So I recommend that to be able to do that, you use question groups. You can still use question banks, but only for creating the questions. When you're implementing the question, you use question groups instead. So you can still, I think this is the important part, that creating versus implementing is two different things in Canvas. You can create your questions way far in advance, like 3 weeks or 4 weeks or 2 months before the exam starts. But when you're implementing it or when you're creating the actual test, you should use question groups. So which I'm going to show you that right now. Let me go to my Canvas course. Let me go to my quizzes. Again, under quizzes, you can create the question banks. Again, I have module 1 questions right here. And again, you can create question banks right now if you want and release it next fall in August or September. Use this to create a bank of questions for each of your module. Module 1, module 2, module 3, or whatever you want to call it, exam 1 or exam 2. This is only for creating the questions. I can add the question bank and name it module 3 if I want, and click enter. And in here, I can add questions, right? And you should be familiar on how to create questions if you attend our previous training on how to create a test. how to create a quiz. Basically, it's basically the same format. Then what I'm going to show you right now in this training is how you can use your question banks and put it as a question groups. So I'm going to go to quizzes again, and I'm going to create my actual test. I'm going to create quiz 2 or test 2, right? And again, you should be familiar with how to fill out all of this information when you build, if you attend our previous basic creating an assessment basic, I'll call it 60 minutes if I want to. Module 1, I'm going to create a short and put the due date and the fillable from, etc. And the most important thing is when you go to questions. Now, what you need to do is, if you have your questions ready, you can create new question groups. Again, if you want to shuffle the questions, you need to create a new question groups. If you don't care about shuffling, you can just find the question and, and just put it at the questions, right? Or add the brand new questions manually if you want. But since I'm going to pretend that you want to shuffle your question, I'm going to create a question groups. I'm going to call it module 1. Actually, this I put in my details. It's about module 2 and 3. That's what I'm going to do. Module 2, I'm going to pick 10 questions, 1 point per questions. Instead of doing this, which what most common mistakes that I see faculty did is that they link it to question bank and it won't be regradable. Again, if you link it to question bank like this, it won't be regradable. So if your question is looking like this, it won't be regradable. So you don't want to link it to a question bank. What you want to do, I'm going to create question groups again, call it module 2. I'm going to pick 10 questions, 1 point per question. I'm just going to create my group. And then if you have your questions ready beforehand, create it beforehand, click find questions and find the question bank where that questions belong to. So maybe this module 1, I know that it's called module 1. And I'm going to use all this question. Actually, I'm going to select all, or you can select individual questions. And then I'm going to add it to module 2. Add questions. It's going to looking like that. So anything that's in this group, in this folder, in this category, the questions will get shuffled, and you will be able to still regrade them if you make a mistake, basically, after the students submit the question, the quiz. Again, you can create a brand new question group again, call it module 3, and pick 10 questions again and create groups. If you don't use question banks, of course, you can create a brand new questions in here. I'm going to call it question 1. This is only, I'm just showing you if pretend you don't use a question bank, right? You like to create your questions when you're ready to create the test. I'm going to call it test 1. Pick will dog cat. So what you can do is that you can drag and drop this question right there. Now you can create a brand new questions again and drag and drop it to module 3. Anything that's in this folder gonna get shuffled. But again, if you would like things more simple, I recommend that you create things beforehand using a question banks and just find questions and it will populate like this, right? So that's how I'm gonna click cancel for this, just because I don't want to save this, or as I need to use this for future trainings. And then let me go back to my PowerPoint. Again, just let me know if you have any questions. I hope this makes sense about that the analogy that creating versus implementing is 2 different things. So I'm not recommending that you don't use question banks. Let's just create the question banks only for creating the questions, implement it using a question group. So I showed you how to create the question groups. Oops. Create the question groups. And we do have one more activity before we end. Just let me know if you're watching, just watching, or you are actually trying this, and we can, and again, if you just let me know you're watching, we can move things to the next section, the last section, which is about moderating a quiz. It is actually interesting that there is no question so far. I must be a really good trainer because I usually get a ton of questions by now about question groups and question banks. But yeah, if you're just watching, just let me know in the chat. To be able to move on, I need more than 50% tell me that you're actually just watching. Probably gonna stop at 1 minute just to make sure that we have plenty of time for Q&A at the end. But yeah, I'm just gonna probably not gonna let the timer runs until 0. We're gonna give you about 15 more seconds. There you go. I'm gonna stop this. Definitely a quiet session today. It's probably because we're doing this at 3, and it's also Friday, but it is. Okay, one last thing before we end this training is I want to talk about how you can moderate quiz. So let me go to my Canvas course again, and let me go to my quizzes. Again, you can only see moderate quiz if you have launched a quiz, if you've published a quiz. So before you launch it, so to moderate the quiz, again, this will only be visible if you have published the quiz. See, like if I unpublish it, you don't see anything. Make sure that you publish it. Before you publish it, make sure that you have the right due date, available from and until date, so that they're not available. Students can take it as soon as you publish the test. But from here, if after you have make sure that everything is correct, publish it, and now you can go to moderate this quiz. And here you can see all of your students. Again, to moderate the quiz, especially for students with accommodations, is something that you need to do manually per exam. So it's not something that you can set up at the beginning of the semester and just tell Canvas, I want 5 students, these 5 students to have extra 30 minutes. That's not going to work in Canvas. Canvas does not have that feature. So as soon as you create your quiz or test, you need to moderate the quiz and add the extra attempt. For example, I want Diana to receive extra attempt. Well, before I do that, I probably need to change my setting a little bit. Bear with me for a moment. I'm going to put a time limit in here because if not, then you're not going to see the full thing. I'm going to put 60 minutes. Save. I'm going to moderate the quiz again. I'm going to go to Diana. Now, this is something that you didn't see before. There's that extra time on every attempt. Everyone already gets 60 minutes. So the only thing that you need to put is the extra time that you need that students need to receive. For example, 30 more minutes. So that's the only thing I'm going to give Diana extra 30 minutes. Or if the students have submitted the exam, and I know that during this pandemic, we receive a bunch of students emailing the faculty, telling them that, hey, my internet got cut off, but I already submitted the exam. So what you need to do is you need to give them an extra attempt, right? So already everyone gets one. You can put one more attempt for that students if you want to. And click save. Now it will say that now Diana gets extras 30, 60, 30. I can't say that for some reason. Gets 30 extra minutes on each attempt, and then she does still have 2 attempts left. Of course, if the students already took one, it's going to say 1 attempt left. So that's one way. So you can, I recommend that you do this beforehand, before the students are in the exam, just to make sure that everything is correct. If the students are still in the exam, you will see a timer button, the blue timer button in here, where, for example, if they email you right away, hey, I missed 5 minutes because of my internet connection, they lost, they got cut off from the internet, for example, but they still have some remaining time left in their test because the actual test timer have not run out, right? So if you see that blue timer, that means that they're still in the exam. You can click the blue timer. No one's in the exam right now, that's why it's not showing. You can click the blue timer and give that students the extra just 5 minutes if you want. Again, I can show that from the screenshot. Basically, that's what you're gonna see. You're gonna every time your students are in the exam, this timer is gonna start counting down. For example, if it's have 5 minutes, it's gonna say 3 minutes left or something like that. Every time you see this blue timer, you can click the blue timer and add an extra 10 minutes or end the exam right away. If you see some potential academic integrity issues, you can actually tell Canvas to shut it down for that student. So that can only be done from that blue timer. Another thing, the most common misconception or mistake is that after you run the questions, after the students are, especially if the students are still in the exam, you don't want to click edit and mess around with this assign to section. Just don't touch it. So if you would like to give your student an extra attempt on a different date, make sure that all of your students are finished taking the exam, and then from there you can click edit the exam again and just assign it to, for example, Diana. I'm going to assign to Isabel. Of course, this one's going to say everyone else now, and you can put the different due date for Isabel, right? And available from and until date for Isabel. If you already know this beforehand, I recommend that you set this one up before the students are in the exam. That's just, for example, if they lost internet activity and they can't take it on the same day, make sure that you click edit and mess around with the assign to after everyone is done taking the exam. Other than this, everything else should be done from moderate to quiz. This is something that you can change or play around while the students are in the exam. The assign to, don't do it when the student is in the exam. So moderate quiz, change extension. We already talked about how to change extension or add extension. We also have talked about assign to. That's all that I want to talk about in this training. I recommend that you have any questions or would like to rewatch our training again, go to our YouTube channel, and we have all this training available. I'm going to send you all this PowerPoint later. And again, thank you for attending. I'm going to, you can also email our support at ahelp@tamu.edu. And also that's our YouTube channel, TAMU Office for Academic Innovation. I'm going to allow you to unmute yourself to ask your questions while I'm sending you the PDF of this PowerPoint. So any questions?
I had one question about that. One of the last things you just showed was making the exam available to a specific student. If I do that and I want the exam to be available to them on a different day than everybody else, do those dates have to align? I guess what I mean is, it seems like in eCampus, if you tried to give it to one student, but it was unavailable to everybody else, it messed up, but maybe I was doing it wrong. Yeah, so for example, I've seen that happen where, like, am I still sharing my screen? Yes. Okay, let me go to edit again. So basically, all you care about, if the other students does not, you don't want the other students to be able to take it before the actual date that you put in there, make sure that you have put a different available from. So you can assign it to everyone in here. Well, I'm gonna assign it to Isabel in here, just that Isabel. So I can put a due date for the rest, everyone else, on Saturday at 11:59. I'm gonna make it available today and 12 a.m. and until again, May 22 at 11:59, something like that. And for Isabel, I can put a different due date. I'm gonna put the due date on the 24th for her at 11, and you can make it available at the same time as everyone else, or if you want to be fair and only allow Isabel to have 24 hours of access, basically, just to make it fair as everyone else, can make it so 24 at 12 a.m. 24 at 11:59. So this way, the rest can take the test, but Isabel will not be able to click take exam. That will be grayed out just for Isabel, grayed out. Perfect. Thank you. But yeah, I recommend that you set this one up beforehand. But yeah, just play around with that's the key, basically, available from and until date. Does that answer your question? Yes, thank you so much. Sure. Any other questions for everyone? I know we're a little bit of running of our 45 minutes training. If not, I recommend that you join our office hours if you have any other questions. But yeah, thank you all for attending this training. I hope all of you have a great rest of your afternoon and have a great weekend. Thank you all. Bye.
Oh yeah, just don't forget if you need the PowerPoint, download the PowerPoint before I end the meeting. Okay, I hope that all of you have downloaded the PowerPoint. I'm gonna end the meeting now.